Hello everyone and welcome to today's Tech Talk. Thanks for joining us for the latest digital transformation developments for the aged care sector. I'm Janine Bennett and the Assistant Secretary and Engagement Lead for the Department's Digital Transformation Program, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to say a quick thank you to Emily Simlat, who stepped in and hosted our last Tech Talk on my behalf earlier this month. Today, I'm really pleased to be back with you all, and thank you for joining us once again. I'm coming to you from Canberra today on the lands of the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. It's great to have you with us. A few quick housekeeping notes for everyone. If you have any connection issues during the session, as usual, you'll find the dial-in details on your screen right now. They're also in your meeting invite for your reference. As always, today's webinar is being recorded. We'll upload the video to our website so you can revisit it or share it with anyone who wasn't able to join us today. We also want to make sure that you can easily access all the links from today's webinar. So those links have already been posted in the chat, which you can copy. They'll also be displayed as QR codes on screen during the session if you'd like to access them on your device during the relevant presentation. And then you'll also get the links in the post-event email. So hopefully that gives you lots of ways to easily access those resources. As always, today we've set aside the last 30 minutes of this session for questions and answers. We've already opened the Q&A function, so feel free to enter your questions as we go. Use that Q&A tab on the top of your screen and remember to vote up any other questions that you see that you're interested in having answered. You can do that straight from the Q&A tab. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we almost always get more questions than we have time to answer. We know that this is a really crucial time for the sector as we approach the 1st of November and that you need those answers as quickly as possible. So to get through as many questions today as we can, I'll be reading all of those questions to the panel on your behalf. Next year, we're hoping we can return back to our usual method where we bring you to stage and have a bit more of a conversation. But for now, we do really want to prioritise the throughput so we can answer as many questions as we can in the room. If you don't get a response to your question today in session, we'll work to get those answers for you. So for highly specific or detailed questions relating to your individual circumstances, we ask that you include your name in the question so that our team can get in contact with you and work with you to get the right answer. For more general questions, we send those directly through to the relevant business areas and subject matter experts. They then use that input to update their existing resources, things like the Support at Home Program Manual, or to add to new resources like FAQs. Where we can, we like to ensure that the really popular questions get answered at our future events. We've done this a couple of times, including the last 2 Tech Talks. We're also using those questions to inform agenda items and future speakers at our future Tech Talks as well. A quick disclaimer, keep in mind that our focus here at Tech Talk is on our technology and digital delivery work. We'll do our best to answer any and all questions, but generally our focus will be on those areas. Before we get into the agenda, I'd also like to welcome any media representatives we have joining us today. Great to have you with us. We appreciate your continued interest in the important transformation work happening here in aged care. If you have any media related questions though, we do ask that you direct those to our media and events team at news@health.gov.au. Those folks are best placed to help you with your media questions. Okay, and now to the agenda. So first up today, we have Faye Flavaris, who will be taking us through our digital transformation update. Then Erica Barnett will provide an update on Support at Home. After Erica, we're welcoming Luke Steins from the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, and then Shahara Parara, who is also here with us today, providing an update on GPMS. And then, as already mentioned, we'll finish up the session with our usual Q&A. So as usual, a packed agenda. I'll not take up any more time and hand you over to Faye Flavaris. Faye is the Chief Digital Information Officer for the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing, and she's responsible for driving the department's digital transformation agenda in aged care and beyond. Faye, over to you.
Thank you, Janine. And nice to see you're back. Emily did a great job filling in for you last webinar. So if you ever need to take another break, I think she's definitely got the right things for the moderation position. So it's only been 4 weeks since our last webinar, but we brought the date forward because we knew we would have some important information to share with you. And we wanted to do that as soon as possible. And since the last time we've met, the new Aged Care Act we've been waiting for, the new legislation to be passed by Parliament before we could give out some more specific details around the rules to you. Well, I'm pleased to announce that the Aged Care and Other Legislative Amendment Bill 2025 has now been passed, meaning we can now be more comprehensive with the information we pass on. And so that's great news for everyone. You will hear many references to that all throughout today's webinar. But before we do that, we have some updates on the digital transformation roadmap and some updated resources. So let me get into that really quickly. First up, the roadmap. As usual, it's caveated with the usual disclaimer. It's important to note that the timeline on the roadmap is there to support the aged care reform agenda, but it should not be considered an official commitment from government. That happens elsewhere through processes outside of these tech talks. As you've probably heard at these sessions previously, we make a point of sharing this roadmap early and often. So when changes occur, and they have, our intent is to call it out here. Last session, we brought you the planned GPMS deliverables for February as part of our staged implementation. Today, I'm pleased to add the addition of the My Aged Care deliverables for February. These new deliverables include improved residential aged care data transmission between the department systems and Services Australia. We automate the generation of the CHSP notice of decision letters. We're finalising elements of the support at home transition, and we're enhancing the integrated assessment tool process for urgent services. We've also added some updates from Services Australia. As you can see, those are the ones in the pink down the bottom of the roadmap. These highlight when providers can start invoicing and claiming under the new support at home arrangement, and the ongoing monitoring and the stabilisation work that will happen post go live. We want to be open and transparent about our path beyond the 1st of November and provide you with early visibility of what's ahead in our journey. But we have a lot to get through today, and since this is our last session with you ahead of the 1st of November, we will bring you more in-depth overview of what's happening in 2026 later in the year. Okay, so let's get on with some of the new resources. So that you know, the new Aged Care Act roadmap was released yesterday, so we're happy to get to you this very quickly today. The roadmap outlines key dates and milestones for the aged care providers to be aware of as we approach the implementation of the 1st of November. It includes system outage dates and the anticipated release dates of additional guidance and support materials. So that's a new one. Get in there and have a look at that one. The new aged care rules for 2025 are now available online. I'm sure everyone is aware that these rules establish the operational detail needed to implement the Aged Care Act of 2024. The rules clarify much of the detail many of you have been seeking and will be a resource you may need to consult over the coming weeks. So have a read, and then of course we're always here to support any questions. There's a new ANAC, I call it ANAC, the Australian National Aged Care Classification Funding Guide has been updated. This guide provides information for approved residential providers on the ANAC funding model, and it sets out how to receive ANAC subsidies, including relevant compliance requirements that may apply. And there's also the specialised status guide for residential aged care providers as well. It's also been updated. If we move on, we've got 24 care minutes and 24/7 registered nursing responsibilities. For these, you can see the care minutes responsibility guide has been recently added information on how many care minutes associated with each ANAC class used to calculate the service level care minute targets applying from the 1st of October. So that one's hot off the press, and the 24/7 registered nursing responsibility document only had a minor change to remove information around split services. So have a look at those. The Commonwealth Support Program has 2 new resources to help CHSP providers understand their compliance requirements under the new Act starting from the 1st. These include a letter to providers, a fact sheet, and a fact sheet for providers, and then another fact sheet for clients. All right, still a couple more to go, but working our way through it. There's a data exchange toolkit for stage 1, and the data exchange dictionary have also been updated for you for support at home. So get your hands on those to help start looking at some of the detail. There's also from Support at Home a range of new updated support resources have been published, including version 4 of the Support Home Manual. The Support at Home Program Manual Transition Guide to providers delivering services for older Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. There's a summary of indicative support at home prices, and there's also a fact sheet on that one as well. And then last but not least, for our resources, the latest schedule of subsidies and supplements is now available. And it includes the daily rates of subsidies around those 4 categories that you can see there. So yeah, watch this space as we continue to send more information. Also, we've got a commencement on some pilot sites for our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander aged care assessment organisations. So the department has entered into contract with 3 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander aged care assessment organisations. This marks the commencement of phase 1 of the rollout, a pilot of the approach to inform the future implementation on how we do these together. This phase will pilot the IT systems, the onboarding processes, assessment processes and their outcomes, as well as training and support systems to ensure everything is working well before we expand more broadly. The pilot organisations are located in different areas, as you can see, in different regions, distributed across 5 different states and territories, and it's a setting with a mix of metro, regional and remote, and very remote locations are covered in the scope of the pilot. The organisations and their aged care planning regions, you can see those on the screen. I won't go through them. These organisations are currently onboarding, and they will be listed on the single assessment system list